Attraction isn't logical. You can't reason someone into wanting you. You can't negotiate desire into existence. You can't convince someone you're attractive through argument or evidence. Attraction happens beneath consciousness. It's triggered by behaviors that bypass rational evaluation and speak directly to ancient wiring. The Sigma male triggers this ancient wiring constantly. Not through strategy, not through performance, but through behaviors that communicate truths the rational mind might reject, but the primitive brain recognizes as valuable. These behaviors create instant attraction, not because they're impressive, because they're honest signals of qualities evolution programmed humans to seek. And when you understand these behaviors, when you see why they work, you'll understand that attraction isn't mysterious. It's mechanical. And these 7 mechanics create magnetism that conscious effort never could. The first behavior is decisive movement through space. Most people hesitate. They pause before entering rooms. They scan for social approval before acting. They wait for permission that no one explicitly grants. They move tentatively, constantly checking whether their movement is acceptable. This hesitation communicates uncertainty. Uncertainty about their right to occupy space. Uncertainty about their place in hierarchies. Uncertainty about whether they're allowed to move with confidence. The Sigma male moves decisively, not aggressively, decisively. He enters spaces without scanning for approval. He moves through crowds without apologizing for his path. He sits without checking if the seat is acceptable. His movement communicates self-authorization. He's granted himself permission to exist in space. And self-authorization is attractive because it signals someone who doesn't need external permission to act. Someone who won't need your permission to make decisions. Someone who's autonomous. And autonomy triggers attraction instantly because autonomy signals capability, resource independence, and psychological strength that won't collapse under pressure. The second behavior is comfortable silence. Most people are terrified of conversational gaps. They interpret silence as failure, as awkwardness, as something requiring immediate correction. So they fill silence with noise. They elaborate beyond necessity. They repeat points. They ask unnecessary questions. This compulsive gap filling communicates anxiety. Anxiety about being interesting enough. Anxiety about maintaining attention. Anxiety about losing control of the interaction. The Sigma male lets silence exist. He completes his thought and stops. He asks his question and waits. He makes his point without elaboration. The silence that follows isn't awkward to him. It's space. Space for the other person to process. Space for depth to emerge. Space for real thought instead of reactive chatter. This comfort with silence is instantly attractive because it communicates self-possession. He doesn't need to fill your mental space with noise. He's comfortable with his own presence without verbal justification. And someone comfortable in silence is someone comfortable with themselves. Someone who doesn't need constant external stimulation to avoid internal emptiness. This self-sufficiency triggers deep attraction because it promises relationship without dependency, partnership without neediness, connection without consumption. The third behavior is selective attention distribution. Most people give attention democratically. Everyone gets eye contact. Everyone gets acknowledgement. Everyone gets responded to. This democratic attention communicates people-pleasing. It communicates need for universal approval. It communicates inability to prioritize. The Sigma male distributes attention hierarchically based on his values. He gives full attention to people he respects. Minimal attention to people he doesn't. He's not rude. He's just honest about where his interest lies. He engages deeply with interesting people. He disengages completely from boring people. This selective attention is instantly attractive because it communicates standards. He doesn't value everyone equally. He discriminates. He judges. He decides who's worth his mental resources and who isn't. And being chosen by someone who's clearly selective feels valuable. Being noticed by someone who notices few people feels special. The attention of someone who gives attention promiscuously means nothing. The attention of someone who rarely gives it means everything. This creates attraction through scarcity. His attention is rare. Rare things are valuable. Valuable things are desired. The fourth behavior is undefended existence. Most people defend constantly. Someone questions their choice, they explain. Someone challenges their opinion, they argue. Someone doubts their ability, they prove. This constant defense communicates insecurity. Insecurity about whether their choices are valid. Insecurity about whether their opinions are correct. Insecurity about whether their abilities are real. The Sigma male doesn't defend. Someone questions his choice, he lets them question. Someone challenges his opinion, he lets them challenge. Someone doubts his ability, he lets them doubt. He's not trying to convince anyone of anything. He's not seeking consensus. He's not collecting approval votes. His choices answer to him alone. His opinions exist whether others share them or not. His abilities will demonstrate themselves through results, not through verbal defense. This undefended existence is instantly attractive because it communicates internal validation. He doesn't need your agreement. He doesn't need your approval. He doesn't need you to understand. He's already decided what's true for him. And someone who's decided what's true for themselves is far more attractive than someone still seeking external confirmation of their truth. Because deciding for yourself is strength. Seeking confirmation is weakness. And strength attracts, while weakness repels. The fifth behavior is emotional non-reactivity. Most people react visibly to everything. Good news, they light up. Bad news, they deflate. Provocation, they respond. Compliment, they glow. This constant reactivity communicates emotional instability. It communicates that external events control internal state. It communicates dependency on circumstances for emotional equilibrium. The Sigma male maintains equilibrium regardless of circumstances. Good news doesn't make him euphoric. Bad news doesn't devastate him. Provocation doesn't trigger him. Compliments don't inflate him. His emotional state is internally regulated. Events happen around him. He processes them. He responds appropriately. But his baseline remains stable. This emotional stability is instantly attractive because it communicates reliability. He won't be euphoric one day and depressed the next. He won't be loving one moment and cold the next. He won't be confident when things go well and collapse when they don't. Emotional stability means partnership with someone whose mood you don't have to manage, whose emotional state isn't your responsibility, whose internal world doesn't require constant maintenance. And relief from emotional labor is deeply attractive to anyone who's experienced relationships where they had to be the other person's emotional regulator. The sixth behavior is purpose-driven conversation. Most people converse socially. They follow conversational scripts. They make small talk. They discuss weather and weekend plans and surface observations. This social conversation is comfortable, but ultimately meaningless. It communicates lack of depth, lack of substance, lack of anything interesting happening internally. The Sigma male converses purposefully. He asks questions he actually wants answers to. He shares thoughts he actually finds interesting. He discusses topics that actually matter to him. He's not following scripts. He's not making polite noise. He's engaging with ideas, concepts, questions that occupy his mental space. This purposeful conversation is instantly attractive because it communicates depth. There's actually something happening in his mind beyond social navigation. There are actually thoughts occurring beyond what will make him likable. There's actually an internal world rich enough to generate original conversation. And depth, genuine psychological and intellectual depth, is rare enough that encountering it triggers immediate attraction in people who possess their own depth and have been starving for someone who can meet them at that level. The seventh behavior is outcome independence. Most people are attached to outcomes. They need conversations to go well. They need interactions to result in approval. They need encounters to confirm their value. This attachment to outcomes communicates fragility. It communicates that their self-worth depends on specific results from specific interactions. It communicates that rejection or disapproval or failure threatens their identity. The Sigma male is indifferent to outcomes. Conversation goes well, fine. Conversation goes poorly, fine. Someone likes him, fine. Someone doesn't like him, fine. Interaction leads somewhere, fine. Interaction leads nowhere, fine. He engages fully. He's present completely. But he's not attached to any particular result. His value isn't on trial in each interaction. His worth isn't determined by whether someone approves. His identity doesn't require validation from this conversation, this person, this moment. This outcome independence is instantly attractive because it communicates unshakable self-worth. He knows who he is independent of your response. He knows his value independent of your validation. He'll engage with you fully. But he doesn't need the engagement to end any particular way. And someone who doesn't need specific outcomes is someone who won't be devastated if things don't work out. Someone who won't be clingy because they're not dependent on you for self-worth. Someone who's complete whether you're there or not. And completeness, ironclad self-contained completeness, is the most attractive quality that exists because it promises relationship without burden, connection without dependency, love without need. Now here's why these 7 behaviors create instant attraction rather than gradual attraction. They're not subtle, they're not hidden, they're immediately observable. Within minutes of encountering a Sigma male, you've witnessed all 7. You've seen him move through space with self-authorization. You've experienced his comfort with silence. You've noticed his selective attention. You've observed his lack of defensiveness. You've felt his emotional stability. You've engaged with his purposeful conversation. You've sensed his outcome independence. 7 data points, 7 signals, 7 honest communications of internal state. And your primitive brain, the part that evaluates potential mates based on survival and reproduction fitness, processes all 7 instantly. It doesn't think about them. It doesn't analyze them. It doesn't rationally evaluate them. It just responds. And the response is attraction. Because these 7 behaviors communicate qualities the primitive brain is programmed to seek. Self-authorization communicates ability to provide and protect without needing permission. Comfort with silence communicates self-sufficiency and internal resources. Selective attention communicates discernment and standards. Undefended existence communicates confidence and internal validation. Emotional stability communicates reliability and low maintenance. Purposeful conversation communicates intelligence and depth. Outcome independence communicates unshakable self-worth and completeness. Every single behavior is a signal, and every signal says the same thing. This person is complete. This person is capable. This person is autonomous. This person won't need you to complete them. This person won't drain you with their needs. This person will be partner, not project. And partnership with a complete person. That's what everyone is seeking, even if they don't know they're seeking it. Here's what makes these behaviors impossible to fake long-term. They're not performances. They're expressions of internal state. You can't fake comfort with silence if you're anxious about silence. You can't fake outcome independence if your self-worth depends on outcomes. You can't fake emotional stability if your emotions are reactive. You can't fake undefended existence if you're insecure about your choices. You can't fake purposeful conversation if you have no depth. You can't fake selective attention if you're desperate for universal approval. You can't fake decisive movement if you're uncertain about your right to occupy space. These behaviors emerge naturally from doing the internal work, from developing actual self-worth, from achieving actual independence, from cultivating actual depth, from establishing actual standards, from building actual stability, from accessing actual autonomy. This is why trying to perform these behaviors as tactics fails. Women, and people generally, have sophisticated detection systems for authentic versus performed behavior. Performed behavior has microscopic tells, slight hesitations, micro-adjustments, inconsistencies, breaks in character. The performance can fool people briefly, but sustained interaction reveals the performance. Authentic behavior has no tells, because it's not performance, it's just being. The Sigma male isn't trying to appear comfortable with silence. He is comfortable with silence. He's not trying to seem emotionally stable. He is emotionally stable. He's not pretending to be outcome independent. He genuinely doesn't need specific outcomes. The authenticity is what creates lasting attraction, because authentic signals are reliable. They predict consistent behavior. They promise that what you're seeing now is what you'll experience later. So, when we talk about 7 Sigma male behaviors that create instant attraction, we're not talking about 7 tactics to deploy. We're talking about 7 honest expressions of internal development that naturally emerge when someone has done the psychological work of becoming complete, of achieving autonomy, of developing depth, of establishing standards, of cultivating stability, of building genuine self-worth that doesn't require external validation. These behaviors can't be separated from the internal state they express. You can't have the behaviors without the state. You can't fake the state convincingly enough to sustain the behaviors. The only path to these attractive behaviors is becoming the kind of person who naturally behaves this way. And here's the final truth about why these behaviors create instant attraction. They're rare. Most people haven't done the internal work. Most people are still seeking validation, still defending their choices, still dependent on outcomes, still anxious in silence, still giving attention indiscriminately, still reacting emotionally to circumstances, still conversing socially without depth. The Sigma male who exhibits all 7 behaviors is statistical anomaly. Encountering him is encountering rarity, and rarity is inherently valuable. When you spend years meeting people who are anxious, reactive, defensive, approval-seeking, shallow, and dependent, then suddenly encounter someone who's calm, stable, undefended, self-validated, deep, and autonomous, the contrast is striking. The attraction is immediate, because you've just encountered something you didn't know still existed. Someone who's done the work. Someone who's become complete. Someone who offers partnership without dependency. And that someone, that rare, complete, autonomous, deep, stable, self-possessed someone, is instantly attractive not through what they do, but through what they are. That's why these 7 behaviors create instant attraction. Not because they're tricks, not because they're tactics, not because they manipulate psychological vulnerabilities, but because they're honest signals of qualities everyone is seeking, but almost no one possesses. And when you encounter honest signals of rare, valuable qualities, attraction isn't a choice. It's an automatic response. Your conscious mind might not understand why you're attracted, but your primitive brain knows exactly why. It's detected completeness. It's recognized autonomy. It's found the rarest thing in modern human interaction. Someone who's actually done the work of becoming themselves. And that someone is magnetic, not because of what they're trying to do, but because of what they've already become.